Fancy seeing you here again. Welcome back to another episode of Missing Mondays. And as always, very appreciated to have you here. Thank you for coming back. And this week we are going to be discussing the disappearance of Amelia Hauser. So my last episode of Missing Mondays was the Missing Native Australian Aboriginal Indigenous. I think I did about 6 or 7 cases in the one video, so if you're interested in that, there's also a playlist on my channel too, so check that out if you feel like it. So yes, today we are going to be discussing a very interesting case. So interesting, in fact, that this almost could have been a midweek mystery. For the sheer... I don't know how we're gonna describe this. Mysterious. It's so strange, this case, because I chalk this up to because there's just so many possibilities that could have happened here. This case theoretically has so many endings, if you will. That's kind of the nature to how this person that we're about to talk about disappeared. But yes, without further ado, let's get into it today, because this one's a very interesting one. So, born on the 21st of July 1974, Amelia Fua Hauser, nicknamed Mia, was a 17-year-old living in Canberra in the Australian Capital Territory in the year of 1992. She was of Tongan and Aboriginal ancestry, and she was originally born in Tonga, and I believe she lived the first 7 years of her life in Tonga. And that was until she moved to Australia, and that was when she moved to Dubbo in New South Wales. She had 1 older brother and a younger brother and 3 older sisters, and was predominantly raised by her grandparents on her father's side. Having a very, very big family, Amelia would often take trips visiting her different sides of the family. In Canberra, in the ACT, she would spend time with her mother's side of the family, and they were from Tonga. And then on her father's side, he was native Aboriginal Indigenous, and they lived in Dubbo, Broken Hill, and Wilcannia. So Amelia was described by her friends and family as being very bubbly, very energetic. She was a very angsty, free-spirited teenager with lots of fuzzy hair. Her younger brother described her as being witty, cheeky, very sharp, very smart, and very quick-witted. And she was very independent. She was a very independent, very strong young woman, and she knew how to take care of herself. And she absolutely loved dancing, whether it be traditional Tongan dancing or traditional Aboriginal dance, or even hip-hop, jazz, rock and roll, didn't matter. Amelia loved all of it. Additionally to this, she also enjoyed singing and playing lots of sports. She particularly thrived in high school at playing baseball and swimming. But most importantly, above all, her family and friends really do describe her as just radiating love, loving peace, loving calm, loving quiet. She was a very harmonious soul. And her best friend Kylie put it simply that Amelia befriended everybody, and everybody that came across Amelia loved her. So as she was growing up as a teenager, she had relatively strict parents, and you know what they say about strict parents? Strict parents make very sneaky teenagers, and that's kind of exactly what Amelia was doing. She was becoming sneaky. She was pushing the boundaries a little bit. She was testing people, especially all the figures of authority in her life. And this kind of caused her and her father to clash a little bit, because obviously his house, his rules, he wants his rules to be maintained and followed by his children. And surely Amelia would have seen that as a challenge, I'm sure. And one of the things I most respect about Amelia was the fact that she got into a nightclub, but one of her family members got tipped off about her being there and had to come and get her. Can I just say, if me and Amelia met when we were teenagers, I would have been the fire and she would have been the petrol. I can definitely respect that rebellious side of her, that's for sure. But unfortunately, as a result of all of this constant clashing with all of the figures of authority in her life, namely her father, Amelia came to the decision that she wanted to complete her final year of school in grade 12. She wanted to complete that in Canberra, where her father's parents that had recently migrated from Tonga were now living. And after kind of talking about this with her father, he agreed to the idea, and off she went to Canberra, living with her grandparents. So that school holidays, Amelia spent it in Darwin in the Northern Territory, and she was seeing family all over. And then when she eventually started her final year of education in grade 12, she was attending Lake Ginninderra College. And that was where she met a young man who was actually a good friend of her cousin. I believe him and her cousin had played on the same sport team, but she met a young man and she was instantly smitten with him, and thus, after a while, began her first real serious relationship. And Amelia was over the moon about this. She wanted all of the, I guess you could say, more traditional things in life. She wanted the marriage, she wanted the babies, she probably wanted the white picket fence as well. And it's safe to say that she especially wanted it with this young boy. And she had even picked out kids' names. Now, don't be too alarmed with this, because I did that with my first relationship too. We spent like 3 days going backwards and forwards, picking out our fictitious children's names, and then I proceeded to get extremely upset when he forgot the name of our fictitious firstborn son. I was very, very, very offended. I just realized my dermatillomania is really bad and really noticeable today. That's not lipstick, that's a flesh wound, so allow me to fix that. There we go, all better, nice and covered. But yes, Amelia, regardless, she had very, very, very strong feelings for this boy, as we all do at that age when it's our first love. Oh, we've all been there, haven't we? So after her year of study was done and she was due to complete grade 12 and graduate, she had turned all of her assignments in, passed all of her end of year exams, and it brought her to the 17th of December 1992. And it was on that day that Amelia graduated in a beautiful, sleek black dress, and she attended the graduation ceremony with her boyfriend Ben at her side. I imagine she would have been beaming, she would have been really happy and just really excited for this next chapter in her life. However, on that night though, things between her and Ben took an unfortunate turn for the worst. I believe he had a confrontation, and while it isn't completely discussed for some reason as to what was said and what they talked about and why the fight was, Ben was reported by saying that the discussion was mostly about the fact that apparently he just found her too clingy, too needy, and unfortunately as a result, on the night of their graduation, they both broke up, and I can imagine this would have heavily, heavily devastated Amelia. So in the early hours of the morning at approximately 3 a.m, Amelia returned home back to her grandparents' house. She hung up her dress and got changed into some different clothes. She then proceeded to write her family a note, and on this note, I believe it was something like she needs time away to clear her head. She said that she was so sorry and that she had been a selfish pig, and I'm not sure what that could be in relation to, I'm sorry. So as the day was breaking, she departed her grandparents' house and she decided to head towards Exhibition Park, which I believe in that area is like a racing track. She was actually spotted by a cousin who was driving by in the opposite direction going back to the house, and that cousin spotted her walking across the park, and the cousin saw that she had a bag with her but said that it looked like it looked like a regular bag. It didn't look like a big duffel bag or anything like that. This cousin kind of thought, oh, she's going out for the day or something like that. She's not going anywhere for a long period of time. There was also a 7-Eleven up the road from the house too, and the cousin also assumed that Amelia could be walking to the 7-Eleven. But from that day, from that sighting by Amelia's cousin, it was roughly around a week before her family raised the alarm that nobody had seen her. So during this time, the family had assumed that she was at her boyfriend Ben's house. Like I want to say before, Amelia was very independent, but they called Ben or they went around to the house and they talked to him, like saying like, hey, have you seen Amelia? And that was when he told them like, no, like 1, we're broken up, and 2, I haven't seen her in a week. And that was when the alarm bells really started going off. And that was when one of the uncles that went back to the house went into Amelia's room and found the note. And then they finally alerted police. So the police started going around asking questions, especially to Amelia's friends. Questions like, have you seen her? Have you heard from her? Stuff like that. All of her friends reported like, no, haven't seen her, haven't heard from her. She's not hiding in my room somewhere. Family just started to feel more and more and more concerned about where Amelia was. So then the public appeals began, and this was a very interesting time in the case because they actually got a lot of tips coming in saying that some people had seen her. These tips were coming from as far as even the Northern Territory. There are a few in Western Australia, and there are especially few here in New South Wales. Even more confusing about all of these sightings was the fact that a family member actually said that at the Sydney Stratfield railway station 6 months after Amelia disappeared, a family member had spotted her, yelled out Amelia's name. They tried to get to her, but there was just too many people in the train station at that time, and whoever this person is that resembled Amelia from behind didn't turn around. So could have been her, may not have been her. We'll never know, unfortunately. Now, in a strange twist. So this is in 1993. This is roughly a year after Amelia went missing. Amelia made a phone call to her biological mother back in Tonga. During this conversation, Amelia never said where she was, where she'd been, why she left. I think she probably told her mother, like, I love you, but she definitely said to her mother, like, I will be in Tonga for Christmas. And that was the very last time that anyone in the family has had any contact with Amelia. I just want to be sure if that was even her though. Like, is the mother absolutely 100% sure that was her and not some prankster? Like, ugh, that's just eerie, you know? Now, in the wake of this disappearance and time that has obviously occurred since she disappeared, police have revisited this case multiple times. It's just so unfortunate that every time they come to the same conclusion, and that conclusion is, we have no idea what happened here. And unfortunately, all the tips that ever get reported in about possible sightings of Amelia, they just never turn up anything concrete. They never turn up anything strong enough to pursue. But there has has been many campaigns about Amelia that have been done over the years since she's disappeared. There've been news appeals, there's been a documentary even a few years ago, and the family never gave up hope. And I honestly applaud Amelia's family for the fact that they've never given up hope. They were out on the street handing out flyers, they were going up to people, hey, have you seen this girl? They were really trying to do everything within their power to help in the effort of bringing Amelia home. So good on them. It really is such a beautiful demonstration of how families should come together with instances like this of missing person cases. So I really applaud them for that. Unfortunately, it's been, what was it, something like 25 or 30 years since Amelia went missing, and unfortunately some of her family have passed away now. Amelia also has lots of new family as well. She has heaps of nieces and nephews that love and miss her, that were born after her disappearance and have never had the chance to get to know her. And unfortunately, as much as Amelia's family has tried to really gallantly just stay hopeful and stay positive all throughout these years, there are a few of them that unfortunately believe that she has passed away somewhere and they just don't know where, which unfortunately in this case, who knows? Who knows what could have happened? That's what I meant at the beginning of the video. Like, there are so many possible outcomes of what could have happened here. So yeah, I have to say, like, I don't blame the police for coming to the same conclusion every time. It must be so frustrating because we have no concrete leads. But I do just want to say really quickly that Amelia's family, if any of you watch this video one day, honestly made me tear up when I was researching this video, seeing how much you really love this young woman. And it was just really beautiful to read all of the beautiful statements that everyone gave about how much they loved Amelia, how much Amelia brought so much joy and love to their lives, and how much you all missed her so much. And I just want to say it was just beautiful. I'm really sorry that this happened to your beautiful family, and it's just really unfortunate, but it's very heartwarming seeing how much you loved this girl. So at the time of her disappearance, Amelia was 18 years of age. She stood at roughly 160 centimeters tall. She had brown eyes and dark brown hair and a medium build. And she had a very distinguishing characteristic at the front of her mouth. She had a chipped tooth. And as of today, she would be 47 years of age. I just want to say really quick as a side note, I was thinking this while I was researching, is there any possibility that she could have been pregnant? Because I'm trying to think of the motive as to why she would leave her obviously really loving, really caring, doting family, leave out of town really quickly while her boyfriend broke up with her. Because to me, that theory makes sense, because she would have freaked out because her and her boyfriend had just broken up and she did want to get married. So if she was pregnant, I don't know, what do you think? Does that make sense to you? It just paints the picture of a plausible motive as to why she would want to run away. But again, I could be very wrong. I could be very incorrect about this, so it's up for you to discuss. And unfortunately, in this case, that is all we have at the moment. There have been more reported sightings of Amelia, but nothing has turned up any kind of conclusive clue as to where she is or what happened to her. The family have even gone to psychics and mediums to try to find out what happened, but unfortunately couldn't even come up with anything conclusive in regards to leads. So, in conclusion, unfortunately, if you or anyone that you know have any idea, any information whatsoever on Amelia, what happened to her, her whereabouts, I implore you to please see the links below in the description pertaining to missing persons. It's just very important that we can give this family some closure or some answers as to what happened to their loved one, or just contribute in the effort in any way that we possibly can to bring Amelia home one day. That would be the best possible outcome. It's never too late to help in these sorts of situations, and no amount of time has ever been too long to come forward with information. As I always say at the end of my videos, Amelia was someone's best friend, she was someone's daughter, she was someone's niece, she was definitely someone's granddaughter. So thank you so much for your time, thank you for your click, thank you for your like. All of this effort goes towards bringing Amelia home and spreading awareness about her disappearance. So you are very appreciated for looking at this video today and for giving this case some of your time. And as always, take care, stay safe out there, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.